Recording in progress.
All right, so the chair is on his way, but we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. Planning board, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do we need to read the COVID statement?
No.
Okay, awesome. So again, sorry for the delay. The chair will be here in a short bit. But we've called to order. Is there any public comment? Any board comment? Okay, we'll get right into the A&R for 790, 792 Mass Ave. We have a quorum, so A&R.
Does not appear that there's anybody here. It's a fairly simple A&R. It's the Stone Farm, the former Stone Farm package store, and they're showing it divided into 3 lots that conform to the zoning as adopted at the fall town meeting, and they do show a portion of the building to be removed to create a compliant situation with the existing building.
It's just a trailer.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a trailer with a building half built
Exactly,
around it,
yeah.
so, but,
Yeah. So they've already had a 3-lot A&R on this lot, but that was without the existing building? I don't think they filed it, but
I don't think they ever recorded it, and I believe it did show the building being taken down.
I thought it did.
I believe the building's currently under agreement.
so this is different.
This is different. The other was a lot more straightforward.
All right. Well, they've got the pins. Are we requiring monumentation on A&R lots or only on subdivisions?
The bylaw requires monumentation before the construction, I believe it says, of a new home.
Because this is on Mass Ave, it would be important to have a lot boundary there, I believe.
Correct. And that would be, that's under 6.2, 256.2, requires monumentation, and that would be up to the building commissioner to be enforcing. I can certainly check in with him on that.
Okay. I just wanted them to be aware. Well, if it is something that they're required to do. All 3 of them have sewer, right? I believe they've already got 3 sewer stubs.
They have 2 sewer stubs, and they would need to apply for stubs for the 2 new lots, because the stubs are associated with the former business and the residence there.
So the 2 current stubs go to Lot 2?
Correct.
Okay. Is this going to get us more betterment?
I believe it's called privilege at this point.
Okay. It's paid privilege or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Paid privilege, betterment.
I think a betterment fee is when it is being installed, and once it's in, it becomes a privilege fee to connect.
I got you.
And I don't know what the formulaic calculation between the 2 is, but I think they're probably roughly equivalent.
Now, what about the front setback for the building? Does it meet
The pre-existing non-conforming building,
but it's not a pre-existing lot.
that's correct. And I guess that would be the determination of the building commissioner if he felt that in order to issue permits on that, they'd be required to get a Section 7 special permit for alteration of, because they're not altering a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Right.
They're altering the law.
This would be like the kabobalicious then?
Yeah.
It's not any more non-conforming?
Correct, it's not more non-conforming. And the lot is actually conforming in opposition to what happened at Kabobalicious, where
Right.
they created a non-conforming lot.
Right.
But we're able to do so because of the age of the building.
All right. So Paula, Eric, had any comments?
I don't have any comments, Mr. Chair.
Nothing, Eric? Nothing?
No comment.
Okay, then I guess we could accept a motion to approve the A&R.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Excellent, Paula and Eric. We'll do a roll call vote. All in favor of approval? Paula?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. It is subdivided again. All right. Economic Development Committee.
So, it's a two-tier thing, and I don't think I sent out the second email, but J.C. Nicole is in the process of moving out of town. So she would not be able to continue to serve as an at-large member of the Economic Development Committee.
Oh, bummer.
She has offered her resignation from the at-large position and asked to be appointed to the ex officio business member position.
J.C. Nickel.
Yes.
Okay.
And Josie Gilchrist, who's here in the audience, has put her name forward through the talent bank as a potential resident at large. I believe Josie also owns a business, so if she wanted to come up, you could come to the podium.
Certainly, if you'd like.
Introduce yourself. So what this would do is this would fill one more seat on the committee, and then the last open seat would be that to be appointed by the Open Space Committee.
Okay. Hey, welcome, thank you.
Hi, I'm Josie Gilchrist. I've been a resident in Lunenburg for 4 years. I'm from Oklahoma. I own You Name It, Life and Home Revamp. It's a home improvement company. We've been in operation for 2 years. But I think I can serve you guys pretty well. I'm in the thick of it, so
Super.
yeah.
Super. Have you followed along with any of the meetings, or do you know any of the members?
I do not. This is my first encounter. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it'll be a crash course.
All right.
I hope you enjoy.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, did anybody else have any questions?
I do not.
No?
But for some reason, we could see the meeting before and now we can't. Do you know why that is happening, Adam?
I think PAC turned their camera off. There you go. Better?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So
So it would be 3 motions.
to accept the resignation?
Correct.
To accept
And
the
then 2 to appoint.
Well, we need a nomination to appoint her.
Correct. Well, yes, you'd need to accept her resignation.
Okay.
Then you would need to appoint each of the individuals to the new positions.
Okay. So I guess, first off, we should have a nomination to accept the resignation of a sitting member, J.C. Nickel, as what was her position?
She was an at-large resident.
And an at-large resident, and now she's going to be a business owner?
Correct.
So we'd need a motion for that and a second.
I would make a motion to accept the resignation of J.C. Nickel as the citizen at large for the Economic Development Committee.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Excellent.
Second.
Super. So we'll do a all in favor roll call vote. Paula?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. So we get 2 more and then you can join in. Yeah? Okay, cool.
Can we get everybody on that display?
That would make, can we put the back display on tile? Thank you.
There we go.
That makes more sense.
Okay, so now we'd be looking for a nomination for J.C. Nickel to the business owner at large. Business owner at large, is that what?
Correct.
So move.
Yeah, that's fine.
And a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor, roll call. Paula?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Excellent, thank you very much. And now we take a nomination for Josie Gilchrist as the citizen at large.
I would nominate Josie Gilchrist for the citizen at large position on the Economic Development Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ex- Excellent. All in favor, roll call. Paula?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Congratulations and thank you. All right, so we've approved an A&R. I don't know if you were here for the last one. I don't think you were, but we got 3 lots out of Stone Farm now. And we've just appointed 2 people to the Economic Development Committee.
Excellent.
So we are on number 5, sorry.
All right. Our next order of business is a public hearing for 225 and 259 Leominster Shirley Road. Matt, would you like to do the honors of
Oh,
reading
sure.
the notice? I don't think I have this.
I'm not sure I do. I don't see it here. Do you have that, Adam?
It should be in the packet.
Okay, I got it. For the right one? PSG 25225, yeah. So the Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on February 28th.
March 14th.
It says February 28th.
Well, it's because it was originally scheduled.
Okay,
Everything carried
so
forward.
we've rescheduled it to tonight. 6:05 PM via Zoom video conference to hear and review applications for site plan approval and stormwater management permit under Chapter 250, Section 8.4, and Chapter 204 respectively of the Town Code of the Town of Lunenburg for construction of 12,300 square foot 7-bay garage, demolition of the existing building, and associated site improvements at 225, 259 Leominster Shirley Road, map 146, parcels 15 and 14 respectively. Owner applicant is PSG Realty, 225, 259 LLC, 133 Leominster Shirley Road, Lunenburg, Mass. Materials are available for viewing at the planning office, 960 Mass Ave. This meeting is recorded. Okay, so here we are.
Excellent.
evening.
Mr. Marchetti, would you like to start us off?
Yes, so Brian Marchetti with McCarty Engineering, registered professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts. Here tonight on behalf of PS&G Realty. Palestone and Gravel has operated their garage and vehicle maintenance out of this property for years. Prior to the vehicle maintenance, it was, I believe, a diner or restaurant. So it's been in the family a long time. The existing site, it's a very odd-shaped, oblonged, narrow parcel. So existing, the buildings doesn't conform to zoning for setbacks. We started down this path a few years ago to permit a new garage on the property. We went to zoning board. We got a variance to maintain the existing nonconformity of the building with respect to the dimensional setbacks to the lot lines. And then the project was put on hold. It's back to life now. There's other things happening around the site that we still need to facilitate, but we're here to propose now a new garage, reconfigure the whole site. There's odd driveway openings here. Parking on the site is actually off the property here within the right-of-way. So we're reorganizing and reshaping the proposed development of this lot to really make it flow better, to fit a bit bigger building, and to accommodate the actual trucks that travel to and from this site on a daily basis. So the existing site, I'd like to mention, there's a septic system on the property, and the building right now is served by a public well. The well is located in the parking lot right in front of the building. There's no stormwater infrastructure on the property. All the stormwater runoff runs into Leominster Shirley Road and runs down the street to existing stormwater infrastructure that's within Leominster Shirley Road near the intersection of Route 70. And a portion of the roadway also just directly sheet flows off to the east side and to the back where Low Places Ranch is now and where Jimenez used to be. So what you see here now is the proposed development. We've taken a site that it's about 2.36 acres in total area. It was about 85% impervious, so majority of the site was paved with the exception of some of the areas around the peripheral of the site. We've proposed it in this location now, this building, because the existing garage is going to stay in operation until the new building is constructed, because they want to keep the operations for the construction business, the Power Stone and Gravel, need to stay open while this takes place. So what we've done here is we've realigned all the parking on the west side of the property to keep employee parking and visitor parking separate from the main truck traffic. Right now, it's all commingled, so the employees and visitors park pretty much right in front of all the trailer trucks and the active construction vehicles that come to and from the site. So all the employee parking and visitor parking will be located here to the western portion of the site. We're proposing a little bump out to the building. This is the main body of the building is a 7-bay garage. Office will be located to the side, and we have a tire storage and compressor room bumped off the back. So the main body of the building, it's about a 12,000 square foot building with a little bit extra square footage for office and storage areas. The existing building that's out there now is about 8,700 square feet. So building size will be increasing, but we are maintaining the existing setbacks that was approved through the zoning variance that was previously obtained. The proposed site, as you see it here, results in a reduction in impervious area. There's a total of, what is it here, about 84 and change thousand square feet in the existing condition. It's about an 84 or so percent impervious cover. And there's we're proposing about a 4,000 square foot reduction in impervious area. So the site really is a redevelopment, but according to the new stormwater regulations in town, we're still providing stormwater infrastructure here to mitigate or to treat the runoff, the 1-inch runoff volume, and to infiltrate and treat the stormwater runoff so we get our 90% total suspended solids and 60% phosphorus removal. As I said, the existing site is fed by a septic system and a public well. The proposed site is still going to have a septic system. Right now, the septic is down in the eastern portion of the site. It's going to stay in operation while the existing the proposed building is built, since the existing building is going to remain in operation. But the existing well that's on site is going to be decommissioned. Right now, we have plans in front of the water department. We're proposing to extend the water main from Keating's, from Reservoir Road, all the way up to the intersection of Route 70, and to feed this new building off of a water main, a town main. That's with the water department. They're in negotiations. So we've had discussions with the water department. We know this building can't be opened and occupancy permit obtained until that water main is extended. So we're looking for a condition of the approval from the planning board to condition that the water department is satisfied and the water main's been extended before the building or the applicant can receive their occupancy permit. However, obviously we need all the approvals in hand while that's kind of in the works. So what I'd like to do is show you here a little bit more detail about stormwater on site. So as I said, the existing site, all the stormwater runoff just left the property untreated into Leominster Shirley Road. The proposed site is now being graded to have a stormwater collection system. There are catch basins proposed on site. We got one here by the office, an additional down by the eastern portion of the site on both sides of the pond. Those will be equipped with water quality units in order to achieve the 90% TSS before it's infiltrated. The soils here are very sandy. They're great gravels, so we're not anticipating any issues with infiltration. However, we're proposing the infiltration basin right now where the septic system is, the current one. So one of the things we asked for when we put in a note is to do the soil testing for the stormwater during the construction phase of this. It's one of the comments that Graves Engineering made. They're in agreement with it. And we're asking to provide that information to you before the system's built. And Graves and the town will have an opportunity to review those test bits before the system's installed. One item here that we're showing is a piped connection to the drainage infrastructure within Leominster Shirley Road. There are catch basins located along Leominster Shirley Road here down at the intersection, one in the middle, one above. So stormwater infrastructure, there is a pipe network within Leominster Shirley Road. We worked with DPW to find out the exact location of that, and we haven't been able to yet. And with the transition now with Rob Oliver leaving the town, we're gonna have to kind of pick that up with the next DPW director and potentially test pit within the roadway to locate that. But we know there is stormwater located in there. And worst case, just below the property at the Low Places Ranch parcel, we know where the pipe is down there. So worst case, we would just have to trench a little further down the road to tie into the stormwater network. So. And like I said, that's the stormwater design. When it comes to utilities, the water we're proposing to pick up from the extension. The electric is available on site. Sewer, we're going to reconstruct the septic system. We have discussed this with the Board of Health, and Board of Health's on board. We just need to do a revised septic design and get approval for that at a later date. So we'll do that obviously before construction. And because of the size of the building, it will require a fire protection service. So that's another reason for the water main extension. So that's pretty much the design. Graves provided their comments, which with the meeting being canceled, the February meeting being canceled, we had an opportunity to revise the plans and resubmit the revised set to Graves so we could have our second round of revisions before the planning board meeting. And we've gone through all the comments. Pretty much everything was resolved. There were just a couple of comments left that Graves deferred to the planning board's judgment. So if we can, I'll just read through their comments and we can discuss.
Certainly.
Let's see. So comment number 2, well, number 1 says GEI has no issues relative to compliance with the zoning bylaws except as noted as follows. All paved areas are required to be separated from the lot lines by a 4-foot wide landscaped area. Additionally, all paved parts of the parking spaces, driveways, and maneuvering aisles are required to be set back 15 feet from any lot line. Neither the existing conditions nor proposed improvements comply with these requirements. However, the proposed improvements better organize the site, separate passenger vehicle and truck traffic, eliminate passenger vehicle parking in the Leominster Shirley Road right-of-way. It better organizes the curb cuts, improves the landscaping along Leominster Shirley Road. GEI defers to the planning board whether the pavement setbacks proposed are acceptable. So, as I said, we've moved the pavement or the parking on site back onto the property. We've provided better landscaping, organized curb cuts. As they said, it's a much better organized site. The zoning variance that we obtained states in the variance that it's for the dimensional requirements requested in the improvements shown in the plans. So it's the same plan that was shown for our zoning variance. It showed our parking in the same orientation for both. So we feel that it's a much better site, and it's certainly more organized. And we're hoping the planning board can use their judgment as well and recognize that it's a significant improvement over what was existing out there. Do you want any more further discussion on that?
Why don't we go through all the comments, and then if any members of the board have questions or concerns, we can deal with them afterward.
Comment number 3, we had a label for parking spaces that was incorrect. That's been corrected. Number 4, we identified snow storage areas, so that's been satisfied. Number 5, we didn't show a bicycle rack on the property. We showed one there. Realistically, nobody bikes to this site. So
You never know, the way fuel prices are
the
going.
pals would prefer not to have it, but I showed it and told them it's easier to check the box than ask for a waiver for it. So we put a bike rack on the site. The plans originally didn't show a exterior dumpster location. We have added that now, outside the building. That's kind of a moving target on this property now. They, a lot of their trash storage and parts is all inside the building, and they have removal contractors come and take them out, but we've located a dumpster pad here immediately adjacent to the building, and one of the truck parking spaces. Number 7, the locust plan needed to identify the abutting zoning districts. We've shown that on the cover sheet on the locust plan. Number 8 was we need to show the existing buildings within 200 feet of the parcel. We've now shown that on the northern side of the property. 9, same thing, we need to show the existing driveways. Those have been shown on the plan. Number 10, GEI understands the architectural elevations and floor plans will be provided directly to the planning board. We had a design done as part of the first phase back in 2017. The building's completely changed. It's mirrored, it's flip-flopped, so we didn't have plans done yet for the building. But obviously, those building plans will be provided to the town and building department as these plans progress. Signature block wasn't on the plans. They are now. With respect to stormwater now, number 13, we identified, or they need to identify the seasonal high groundwater at the location of the infiltration system. As I said, that system is in a location where the existing septic system is now. It's under a paved area that receives truck traffic every day from the operational vehicles here. So that's something we're asking to be able to provide the town at a later date. We're highly confident. We know the grade change between the parking lot where we're proposing our system in Old Shirley Road, which is right behind the system, is about a 8 to 10 foot grade difference, and there's no groundwater breakout. This is all really sandy soil. It's near the stream, which is below the site, below Low Places Ranch, which is another 10 feet lower. So we're highly confident that we're not going to have any issues with groundwater here. But again, we'll provide that information before construction begins. That was number 13. So 15, they state the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook and standards is reasonable except as noted in the following comment. Again, it's about soil testing. He's just asking that we provide that before construction. 17, GEI recommended the placement of erosion control barriers at the southeastern area. So just below the site here. So our plans now show an erosion control barrier surrounding that southeastern portion of the property. And then the comment number 19, our outlet control detail had a conflicting invert with our drainage table. That's been corrected. And then number 20, the last comment, GEI just reiterates the fact that the Lunenburg Water District will review the proposed infrastructure plan. So they have a set of plans now. The pals have been talking with them and working with them to iron out the details with Keating's and the other users along Leominster Shirley Road they're going to be paying for and tying into the system. So, so we acknowledge that comment. So that's it.
All right. I'll open it up to the board for any questions or concerns.
Well, my biggest concern is that you're proposing the recharge over the existing septic, and given the footprint of the existing building and the location of the new building, it doesn't really leave you a whole lot of room for naturally existing soils.
So the entire footprint of the septic system will be over excavated and removed. And it's a very sandy soil. The depth to bedrock here is, it's not even a concern. So there'll be significant depth of natural soil under there. The system that's out there now, to the best of our knowledge, from what we've seen with the Board of Health plans, it's a very shallow system. So over excavating the whole septic system here it's not an issue.
Do you know roughly what the elevations are in terms of the infiltration
septic versus stormwater.
Yeah,
We think it's basically at the same elevation.
okay.
So we'll be taking out the entire septic system, they'll over dig, and they'll put back, good sandy gravel material when we build our system up. And this whole system, it's an underground infiltration system, so it's plastic chambers embedded in stone and wrapped in filter fabric.
But I mean, you're still going to need the septic testing. The Title V has to be the the naturally occurring, non-disturbed, no fill.
Yeah, so the proposed septic system's up here, it's gonna be up in this area.
Oh, okay.
The existing's down here, we're taking the existing out, all the stormwater's down here. The proposed system's gonna be up here by the building. It's either gonna be right here in the landscaped area or over here on the side. We've sized the system based on the size of this, and it's really small,
Okay.
based on the material that we know is gonna be there,
Sure.
so.
I'm sure they were aware of it, but just making sure, because that's not part of this, right?
Yep.
What's that?
Their septic design is not part of this.
They just have to, yeah. I mean, and obviously the whole site plan goes away if they can't get
So
a septic system designed to meet Title V.
the other question I had was he asked about our approval conditional upon the water district. Is that going to fall into that? We can't approve on somebody else's condition?
It's one of those things where we can word it in a way that we're not requiring their approval for our approval, but we're noting that that approval is still required.
Yeah, I probably asked that wrong. So your approval is not dependent on the water district, because if we can't get the water main extended, we're gonna have to put in a well with expansion tanks
That was gonna
and
be
fire
my
pumps
question,
to
if they would
feed the
be able
building. So
to-
either way, we have a solution. We're just going down a path that's taking longer than we anticipated to
You're
get
going
the
to need
water
like a 30,000 gallon cistern for the
Yeah.
fire protection, aren't you?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure you're ready for that too.
main. Yep, absolutely. We just did one on another project. It's about a 40-foot tank, about 10-foot diameter, 10-foot square.
Pretty large.
Is it likely that the water district won't allow the expansion?
They want it.
Okay.
Everybody on the road wants it, the
It's
water
really
district
just the
wants it.
details at this
It's
point.
going through the details now, getting the approvals and funding in place and just crossing the Ts and dotting Is.
I think
There's a high-pressure
probably
gas
come up with
main
something else.
in this road that goes literally right up to where the water main is at Reservoir Road. So it's just a matter of working with all these departments to locate where they want this main to go.
Mrs. Bertram or Mr. Torgensen, do you have any questions?
I do. The septic system, you mentioned it's going to be to the side next to that, I think you pointed to next to the proposed office area.
Yes.
Correct.
Have you done soil testing there?
So the family has dug on this site previously, yes. And we haven't done it recently, but we know based on the soils there, the soils that were excavated down at, or the ground where it's been excavated down at Low Places Ranch, which is just to the east of this, as well as adjacent properties right here. The sand is deep here. We only encountered ledge on the other side of, almost approaching Keating's driveway further east up the road. So we know the soils are sandy soils. And we're, I don't want to say sure, but we're highly confident that we'll have no issues here on the property. And Board of Health we've already talked with them about an approach and where to put it and our flexibilities here. So we're not concerned at all about getting a system that's adequately sized for this building.
Okay, so when you talk about adequately sized for the building, what are you sizing the system for?
So it has to be sized for, I don't have the exact flow, but it's sized for per vehicle bay and per office. So
Okay, and how much office space is it?
it's, let me see. We don't have it divided, but looking at the size, it's only a 40 by, maybe at most a couple thousand square feet. Not even, actually, it's about 40 by 40. So it's
Okay.
less than 2,000 square feet.
Okay, so you went over the revisions based on Graves' review. Has Jeff done another review on the revised plans yet?
This is the review on the revised plans, the one I went through.
Okay, so that's what you were reading?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So he did one review back in February, We got his
Right.
comments back, we revised the plans, resubmitted them, addressed all the comments, and he came back, what's the date? March 4th with the second review.
Okay. There are a number of comments on the, that were sent out from other departments. Did you receive those?
Yes, yeah. I don't have a copy of that here, but I believe the only comments were, looking at the Board of Health, the only comments kind of at this point were from Jim Gareffi agreed that we'd have to submit a revised septic system plan. And then most of these from Board of Health are all kind of building permit related after the fact. So that's not an issue. You know, there hasn't been an asbestos survey of the building, underground storage tanks, you know, all of these things would happen during the building permit process.
So a plan for dust mitigation must accompany the submission. During the demolition. Dust control must prevent dust migration to abutting property. I think that's something that we would want to put in our approval.
I mean, we provide an erosion control plan. We have notes about all the you know, all the erosion mitigation that we typically do as part of a site plan approval process. So that's all in the site plan set.
I'm just saying that when we issue the permit, Adam, that's something that would be appropriate to be in our approval for dust mitigation during the work of the demolition.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, we can add it to our standard conditions.
Okay, and the other thing, the floor drain in the building must be discharged to an industrial waste holding tank, designed, installed, and certified in accordance with 314 CMR 18.
Yes.
Do you have that? Do you have that shown on the plan? I didn't see it.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Okay, and I'm not sure I understand Rob's comments.
bring that up, because you can't go into
I believe the former DPW director's comments are in reference to what Mr. Marchetti was speaking about, locating the drainage in Leominster Shirley Road and ensuring that they match up. I actually gave him my copy of them, but
Yeah.
I believe it's about locating the infrastructure and ensuring that the tie-ins are meeting elevation-wise.
Yeah, so the existing site, as I said, it was 84,000 square feet of pavement. The whole site ran into Leominster Shirley Road. The proposed site, it's 4,000 plus square feet of impervious less. So even if we didn't put a pond in, we're reducing the amount of flow that goes to Leominster Shirley Road. Because of your new stormwater bylaws, we have to treat the 1-inch water quality volume, plus the TSS and the phosphorus. So we've put in a significantly sized infiltration system here that more than exceeds the 1-inch water quality volume. So the amount of runoff leaving this property compared to what was existing is significant. And we did provide a drainage analysis in our submittal to Graves that showed that. So his comment was saying to make sure what we're discharging from the site doesn't surcharge the existing drainage system that's within Leominster Shirley Road.
Okay,
And we're doing that by a long shot.
okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, the fire department, did you locate a fire hydrant
Yep.
within 100 feet of the building?
Yes, there's a fire hydrant across the street here already, and there's one down at the intersection of Leominster Shirley Road. So we didn't add another one because there's already one right there that's within that dimension.
Okay,
And that tight tank is right here.
Tight tank is right out of the building.
okay.
So all the floor drains in the 7 bays are all tied to that tight tank.
That's all I have.
Now that you mentioned that, where's your, excuse me, you're infiltrating pavement runoff, right? So is there separators or somewhere?
So all the pavement runoff runs to a catch basin here, catch basins down here, that routes it all back to the system. The floor drains in the building are all tied to a tight tank. So there is, they don't need an oil water separator because it all goes to the tight tank. It all gets pumped out. So there's nothing inside the building going to our paved area or to near the infiltration system.
Are you able to directly recharge pavement runoff without having a separator?
We have catch basins and water quality units, so we have separators.
Oh, okay. I thought it had to be right before the recharge area.
It is, so we proposed, they're inlet storm scepters, so the catch basin is a particle separator.
Okay, okay, very good.
Mr. Torgensen, do you have any questions or concerns?
I do not, no.
All right. So I guess then the only other issue that we need to discuss as a board is the setbacks. I mean,
I don't think we do, because the ZBA's already said it's okay, right?
just in terms of Graves' review, he deferred to us. I mean, I don't see any issues. I think it's a vast improvement over what's there. I just want to make sure that everybody else feels the same.
Yeah, and just the one overwhelming kind of point that I want to make about that is because of the shape of the lot, it's long and narrow. To lose 15 feet would eliminate almost, almost all the parking over here. It makes the vehicle traffic over here for construction vehicles very narrow and almost undoable.
Yeah.
They couldn't physically pull in and back out of these spaces, so.
Yeah. No, certainly this is a big improvement, and
Yeah.
I don't have any concerns with it individually. I mean, any of the structures you're placing there are just landscaped islands.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you see what it looks
there's
like down the
a
road.
lot
retail
more
shop.
stuff than that in the right-of-way.
I mean, this is a
All
huge
over town.
improvement to the existing conditions.
Yep.
I think there is one other thing the board needs to take under advisement as they look to close this up, and I think, Mr. Marchetti mentioned putting the drainage system where the septic system currently is. Per the standard conditions, when you are granted a stormwater permit, you're required to install your stormwater infrastructure first, and it needs to be functional prior to moving forward. So clearly, that condition would be an issue here. So it's not something that can't be removed, but it's something that the board needs to be at least aware of as part of moving forward, that this would be an alteration to the existing conditions. And I don't know that it's going to have a big impact because of the situation that's currently there. It's not a raw piece of land where it's currently not having stormwater contributions to the road. And what they're doing will probably reduce that during construction, but it is something that would need to be removed from those conditions.
Okay.
Well, now that you brought up the setback being the whole length of the lot, I'd be more concerned about the width. I mean, don't we have to grant the curb cut width? Because aren't we limited to the standard width?
It is pre-existing non-conforming, and it's a situation that is uncontrolled currently, and so you're creating control to a degree, and based on the situation at the site, and I think based on the way that the approval was issued by the zoning board, because it was alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming lot and structure, correct?
Yes.
So they were given the pre-existing conditions, they were given the proposed post-construction conditions, which the zoning board approved. And so I would interpret that as them granting relief through that special permit for the condition that you see here, pending this board's review of the site plan for compliance with the objectives and standards of site plan.
Good. Have you got any idea what the actual width of the opening there is in the middle?
I knew you were going to ask that because I left my scale at the office.
260 feet. I don't know.
Honestly, I was going to say 240. So we've got, that's 160. I'd say it's probably close to 300 feet. the full width of it.
And the 300 feet being all three,
That's
Cut.
this.
or
one.
just, okay.
There's an existing curb cut over here now that's 30, it's really wide. We're narrowing it to 24. And then down here, it's wide open for probably 200 feet. We're closing the whole thing up. We're maintaining access because this is a path where they take vehicles back and forth. They store vehicles and
Equipment
equipment
down
back
below,
here,
yeah.
so they don't have to take excavators and big machines out into Leominster Shirley Road to move them between
Yep.
properties.
Yep.
So,
So Old Shirley Road, is that a public way still?
it's public to here.
It is? I thought the entire thing was
I
abandoned.
think it was discontinued just from this location down.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other issues?
No, I guess that blanket site and lot, site and building, ZBA's determination. that-
Yeah, because it was pre-existing non-conforming and they were issuing alteration to that.
Yep, that cuts our legs out again.
Well, and I don't know that it cuts your legs out. I think that's the vehicle for making alterations, and I think, and I don't think this is the only site that will ever deal with this, but it's a property owner looking to make improvements to a site that wouldn't ever get made if they were required to meet what exists now. And I mean, this site has been this way for decades.
Yeah.
I know.
So I don't know that it's cutting the feet out as much as it is providing some clarity from a subjective perspective on.
Well, I mean, just the fact that we've got a bunch of bylaws that are written that don't allow stuff like they're showing kind of cuts our feet out.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I was getting at. I am impressed by the improvements that are being suggested. I think it looks like a good site. There's a lot of unknowns here. You have to have a well, or you have to have public water. You don't have public water, and you're not facilitating room for a well. You got to have fire protection, so if you don't get the water, you've got to have a cistern. There's just so many moving parts. I would be very reluctant to put this forward, myself personally.
In regards to the fire protection, you said there's a hydrant across the street now?
Yes.
So does that qualify for fire protection and you just need to extend the line to get more water, or?
It just, they requested a hydrant within 100 feet of the building.
Okay,
And it's within 100 feet of the building.
okay.
The size of the building requires a full NFPA system.
Yeah, so it'll be a
he needs to
full
have
fire
water on
protection service.
site to
Sprink-
feed that.
Sprinklered,
Okay.
so the whole building will have to meet the fire protection regulations, so it's going to be a sprinklered building.
Yep.
With a fire pump and
So I thought they said something about it has to be 100 feet. Where
the regulations was within 100 feet of the
Yeah.
building.
was
Yeah,
it?
for the hydrant.
It wasn't Board of Health, it was DPW, right?
It was,
It was fire department.
department.
Fire department.
Okay, so being across the street, that doesn't qualify?
within 100 feet. If they measured it and it the idea is that this building has the potential to be explosive from a combustion perspective.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
but I think if there were a fire there, whether it's across the street in front of the building, the fire trucks are gonna be taking up most of the street. So they just wanna have access to it to feed the trucks.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it's been an issue before, specifically on the bonfire. The hydrant had to be on the right side of the street, and the bonfire is a temporary thing, and this is a permanent thing.
There's more than ample room to put it here. If it needs to be on our side of the street, and the fire department says, no, we need it there, it's easy to accommodate.
But, so you can't bring water from across the street? What's,
We can't bring, wait, I mean,
Are the hydrants across the street?
I'm trying to think here what that was, I don't want to misspeak now that you're saying that.
Mhm. It's hard to have hydrants without water service.
Yeah, you're right.
Are they fed by a water line, or are they sunk into a?
At the corner, I think it came from, it's not across the street here, it's by the bridge. and we couldn't get water across the bridge because you needed easements from the rail.
Yep.
So I misspoke. It's not. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought there was one within, but there's, now you say that, if we wouldn't be extending the water main if it was.
If you had water across the street, yeah.
Totally misspoke there.
Unless it was a fire pump
So
system
when you
of some
do,
sort.
when you do the water main extension, then you're gonna provide
We
the
have
hydrant.
The water main extension plans, I can forward it to you for a copy, but there were, I think that's the problem here, is we did put one on the site. It's on the water main extension plans, it's not on this site.
Okay.
And I expect it would go right in that island right out front.
There's an island here, right next to our main.
Yeah.
There's an island here next to the main, and we have area right here next to the office where it could go as well.
Okay. Any other?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would tend to agree with Mr. Allison. I don't have any problem with the proposed layout and the site plan. However, I do have a number of concerns regarding the moving parts that are there, you know, whether it's going to be a well, whether it's going to be public water. I'm concerned about the fact that the stormwater system isn't going to go in until after construction, because what happens to the stormwater during construction?
The building could be installed first, and that's almost entirely within the paved parking area right now. So, you know, if it's a matter of, you know, we're basically taking up pavement with building. So there's no real transfer or change of,
You're not
Of
turning the
cover
whole
type.
site over to do that.
no, and we're, you know, it's active construction, so our, you know, it's over an acre, so we're gonna have to file a SWIP, so we're gonna have to control stormwater and sediment throughout the whole
Yeah.
construction process, so, that's really just a construction staging issue.
So I would want that clearly articulated in the permit. Additionally, I'm concerned about the fact that there isn't soil testing where the septic system is going to go. I'd like to know what the septic system is. I'd like to, you know, I can't really tell where the size of the existing system. But personally, I'd feel a lot better if we had a depot and a perk where the system is going to go. And when do we expect whether or not you're going to be able to extend the water line? What's the timeline?
I mean, it's under review now. I couldn't really tell you how fast it's gonna be, but I know they wanna have this thing under construction this year. And I know Powell was talking with, obviously, all the people tying into it on the street here are contractors. So they're probably gonna be self-performing all the work and paying for the work themselves, so.
So
I mean,
when did you submit the application to the water district?
We filed this probably last summer.
Well, I mean, that is really concerning that we still don't have an answer.
Well-
So we have no idea of a timeline on what's going to happen
But those
on
are,
this site. So
but I think
if
these are
you were
all,
to start, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, these are all building permit issues. I mean, they're not gonna issue building permits until these things are finalized. I don't think this can't be something that holds up a site plan approval.
But it does relate to the site plan, because if we find out that you do have to put in cisterns or you do have to change your fire protection, that affects the site significantly.
Yeah, and we'd file a modified site plan.
In terms of Mrs. Bertram's concerns about the building construction and soil erosion control, this is just a layperson's perspective, but the area where the new building is going is currently impervious.
It's almost entirely parking. That's where they park all their trucks now.
So logically, you're gonna cut out all the asphalt, and that area that you open up, which is probably 20,000 square feet to put the 12,000 square foot building in, is then gonna be
It's gonna be sand.
charging
Yeah.
and theoretically, you're digging a hole to put your concrete footings in and so on. So all of that, it's basically its own detention basin on a temporary basis until you get concrete in place and so on.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
once you have concrete in place, you no longer have sediment issues. So,
And while that's being installed, the septic system, like right here, the septic system that you see
Yep.
is a design footprint for what we're anticipating for soil here, which is based on previous soil data they have around the site which is based on the NRCS soil survey, it's a sand. So it's all sand in this area.
I mean, my take on the details of the permit and whether we condition things, close the hearing, vote on approval, and then talk about conditions, I certainly understand where some members of the board have concerns about how this all shakes out. In my mind, it would make sense we've flushed out all the major issues other than the stuff that revolves around the water line. In my mind, it makes more sense to just continue until you have that done, and then as soon as that's done, we can close the hearing and approve it, and we don't have to come back for a change. I mean, I don't.
I hesitate because I don't have a timeline.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
But either way, if you can't move forward until you have the water line nailed down.
Yep.
And so that's really the bottleneck to this whole thing.
I just don't see a situation where it's not going to be a water main extension. Everybody on the road wants it. Keating's needs it. You know, everyone down here wants it. We're proposing hydrants all the way up I think they're every 500 feet. So we're, meeting the fire protection regulations and everything the fire department's asked for and commented on. So I don't have an answer for you about schedule and timeline, but
When was your last conversation with the water district?
Steve's been talking to the water district directly, so I haven't had much correspondence with him, except for in the beginning when we talked about the level of detail he needed for the design. So Fran and Steve have been working
And I
directly.
guess what I think from my perspective, the best thing to do right now would be to continue this for one meeting.
Okay.
Because there's some outstanding questions. Mrs. Bertram wants to know about your erosion control during construction. She wants it included in the permit. So if you have a statement or a plan, or you can outline where that is, we can include that in the permit. She asked a question about septic testing. Is it possible that you can get a perk rate at that septic before the next meeting?
Probably, yeah.
So, I mean, if we can wrap some of these things up, and maybe you can talk to Fran at the Water District and get an idea, and I'll reach out to him and see where everything is, then rather than close the hearing, we can draft a draft decision. We can look at that at the next meeting. We can check back in with the few outstanding things that you might have. And then I think the board can probably make a more informed decision at that point. Because if the Water District says, oh, we're just waiting for DEP to say this, or the fire chief to sign off on that, that's different than them going, well, we're still looking at it. Yeah. So, I think what we really want to do is just nail this down before we continue either indefinitely or too far out into the future. And that gives everybody a chance to circle back. I can look at the conditions and take out what I think wouldn't make sense in conjunction with what we have going on as far as the stormwater goes, and then the board can look at it and see if they want to add anything in or change any of that, and we get away from not having to worry about taking new testimony with the hearing closed.
Right. We likely won't be able to get, make an appointment with Gareffi and have official testing, but we can certainly do a
But I
test in
think if
the
you
area
can
and
come in and say,
provide with some
we,
data.
our soil evaluator came up with this is where we're at, we think that it matches with this in Title V, at least there's a record of having done it, and the board can
Exactly.
make a better
All right,
decision.
that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually less concerned about the perk rate than I am the 4 feet naturally existing pervious material. I mean, you're awful close to the slope there. You've got a retaining wall. You have to be so far off that retaining wall with a leaching field.
Right.
You do, with
Right.
permeable barriers, so we've basically done a design for the situation we're in. We're just haven't submitted yet, so.
Yeah.
Well,
haven't done it.
So hold on, you just said you have a design?
We've laid the system out based on the type of soil and the Title V
Okay.
demand for the building. We haven't officially done testing on site, so we haven't
Okay.
done an official septic design to submit to Board of Health yet.
Right, but Matt raises a good point about the 4 feet of naturally occurring soil and the groundwater offset. I'd be curious about, what you anticipated the groundwater offset and
Yep.
the soil depths, et cetera.
So I mean, if that is Old Shirley Road at the original grade, then it's not unlikely that this site is built on fill, is I guess what I'm getting at.
I think it's the opposite. I think
Oh, it-
that's native and Old Shirley Road was cut in.
Excavated.
Quite possibly could have been, sure. But,
Or that's just the natural contour and they just shaved that hill back to get the road in.
Yep.
just concerned.
Anything else anybody wants to add? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to,
Oh,
Ex-
I would like to ask one question. Has anybody ever considered approaching the sewer department and inquiring about an IMA with Shirley, with Leominster to come off of Pioneer Drive and sewer Leominster Shirley Road? Because your client is considerable frontage along that road. It would
be in
benefit
this-
everybody, and it
it'd
would
be in
benefit our
this.
industrial zone.
it'd be in the same easement issue.
It was, I think, the issue was crossing the bridge.
Okay, that makes sense, unfortunately.
It was, I think the cost was incredibly high.
Okay.
And, you know,
Never mind how long it would
pump
take with the
chambers and
railroad.
light permitting, and it had to be fast.
Very good.
All right,
Thank
I
you.
will entertain a motion to continue the hearing for 225 and 259 Leominster Shirley Road to March 28th at 6:35.
6:05?
6:05, yes, our new and improved time.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Mrs. Bertram,
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next appointment is 780 Northfield Road for a scenic road application. Which I need to find. Would you like to do the honors, Mr. Allison?
Sure. Which one are we gonna do first?
780 Northfield.
Northfield? Okay. Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on February 20, today, via Zoom video conference to hear and review application to remove trees and a 50-foot section of stone wall for a new driveway at 780 Northfield Road, map 38, parcel 17, under MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C, Scenic Road Designations, and under MGL Chapter 87, Section 3, Cutting of Public Shade Trees. Owner applicant James and Allison Latanzi, 331 Marshall Road, Fitchburg, Mass. The application is available for viewing at the planning office at 960 Mass Ave, Lunenburg.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Latanzi. Would you like to fill us in on what you're looking to do?
Sure thing. As many may be aware, my wife and I own Hollis Hills Farm located in Fitchburg, just a short jaunt from this location. We've recently purchased the Pierce's Christmas Tree Farm property, and as we plan to operate both operations, there's significant travel with our farm equipment between both properties. My concern as a farmer in the area for a long time is that the intersection of Northfield Road and Route 13 or Chase Road is a fast-moving, historically dangerous intersection where I operate tractors and trucks and all sorts of funky equipment, harrows and tractors and hay balers and equipment back and forth between the fields and the farms. My concern is that dealing with that intersection proposes high risk to myself, my employees, and the general public. And I feel it's an avoidable situation for travel between the two farms if we were to put in a new farm access road allowing us into the property at 780 as well as an adjoining property, but 490 Chase Road. What I'm looking to do is to remove, I believe it's 4 trees that are in the town's easement and to open up that section of stone wall in order to enter into that property.
All right. Any members of the board have any concerns, comments?
This was next to the wetlands. Didn't you have input from the,
He's, it's an active farm. He qualifies under the exemption under the Wetlands Protection Act for farm activities.
okay, did we get input from the conservation?
We did. Thought-
It's not in our packet, right? It's just,
And maybe he didn't send me one. I really thought that,
I believe I have a copy of it. It was sent to you, Mr. Brennan. I believe it was sent the date of our last scheduled meeting on
on the
February
28th.
28th.
I don't have anything from him on 2/28.
In one moment, I'd be happy to pull it up for you.
do you have any plans to
There it is.
pave
No,
any portion of it?
No.
Okay.
The activity you seek approval from the planning board is considered RAM land under normal improvement and is considered exempt from Conservation Commission review.
What's it considered, Ram land?
That's what it says.
RAM,
Yep.
all caps?
There's not many caps in the email, but I would infer that it is supposed to be all caps.
Okay, any idea what Ram land is?
full disclosure, sir? No.
Okay, well, that's an interesting input.
There is an ag exemption within the Wetlands Protection Act that allows for improvement to existing agricultural land as qualified under the act.
I know, I just wanted to
I
hear
know.
you say it. Okay. Super. So,
I also spoke with the now former tree warden. I believe he may have given some input as well. He did not, in my discussion, have any issues with the removal of these town trees. I don't know if
I
he's,
don't believe that he submitted any because he had intended on being here previously.
my discussion was on last Thursday, and my understanding was he was going to update in the town permitting process platform. I'm not familiar with it myself, but he said that he was going to be submitting his comments, that he had no issue with this.
I do not have anything from him in writing.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess my only concern would be that I feel like 50 feet is pretty wide for a driveway.
Understandable, my intent is a 50-foot opening at the, essentially at the road. The driveway itself will not be 50 feet wide, but given the nature of the equipment that I operate, turning into and out of the driveway, I don't want to be, I would rather be operating on solid driveway material versus, cutting the corner close and being half in the ditch, pulling in and out with trucks and equipment.
so I see what you're saying. You've got a driveway width of 50 feet. Well, it's what it looks like. So is it safe to say that you want to remove 50 feet of stone wall?
If
Because
you
that's what we're
take
concerned with.
Take the curve, it may be 45 feet. I mean, the stone walls, I mean, even less, maybe down to 40 feet, because the stone wall there, I believe, is about 12 feet off of the edge of Northfield Road, 12 to 14 feet.
Now, this is also going to be exempt from our zoning, right, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it's, well, no, the activity is exempt. The nuts and bolts of it can be reasonably regulated under 40A3.
Reasonably regulated?
Yes.
I honestly don't have a thorough understanding of the minutia of it, but I run into it in forestry that the activity is exempt, but
Correct.
you still have to meet protocol. Like
Correct.
if we do timber harvesting, we can't come within 50 feet of a delineated wetland. But I don't know how that factors into.
If Mr.
these
Latanzi, say,
situations.
wanted to put up a 100 by 400 barn, that would require site plan approval. Because we're not telling him he can't farm and he can't have the barn, but site plan approval is an objective approval system. And so he would trigger the threshold of that. And actually, Mr. Violet did that when he got the grant to build the second barn on his Lancaster Ave property. So we can't unreasonably regulate it. We can't require special permits for things. We can't require subjective approvals, but we can hold farming activities to specific standards.
Building code.
Building code, even zoning, I mean, those kind of things can apply.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mrs. Bertram.
I'm pulling up Google Earth and I'm trying to understand exactly how many trees would be affected and how much of the stone wall would be affected, and I'm not really getting a clear understanding. Oh, good, you do have pictures.
Did you mark the trees?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you can see them in the pictures. Little orange dots, or?
They've been taped with ribbon for
Okay.
at least 3 weeks at this point.
Okay, so how many trees?
Four, Mrs. Bertram.
Yeah, it's not clear in the photographs which are the 4 trees.
No, it's not. And I'm trying to, and the stone wall is obviously difficult to see because it's snow. I just would like to have a better understanding of the trees and the stone wall.
I'm zooming through pictures. I don't have it with me, but if we, oh, that's upside down.
It looks like you took the pictures before you flagged them. Is that possible?
Yeah.
It is entirely possible. When I did my submittal and we had a discussion afterwards. Yes. So in that picture, the one that's currently up, that's what we're looking at. That dead tree to the right and the one to the left. Yep, oop, mouse just went by it. And one to the right.
1, 2, 3.
30 in that picture, yes.
And I'm assuming that these trees are right adjacent to the wall?
Yes. Any tree clearing beyond that is outside of the,
But how much of the wall will be affected?
roughly 40 feet of the stone wall.
And does the stone wall go all along the property line currently?
It does not go on the entirety of it. It breaks where the brook comes out of Kelly's Pond.
Which is a less than ideal place to put the driveway.
Correct.
I'm not sure conservation would say that's okay.
I believe that would not fall under exemption. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just tough to get an idea of size, scope, and so on. Would it be possible to do a site visit if we set it up for like a Saturday or something?
Sure.
I'm just looking, I mean, the plan here doesn't show the frontage, but GIS, and GIS isn't super accurate, shows it at 193 feet. Does that seem accurate?
That section there, that sounds accurate, yes.
Okay.
I mean, the parcel on GIS is going to be spot on accurate. The
Okay.
location over the aerial photograph is going to be squirrely.
Yeah.
I found them not to be spot on accurate as well, but
The parcels?
as far as the offset there.
Well, when you lay them over the photograph, they're not. But that's an accurate representation of the parcel as it exists.
Yeah. Do you know if either one of those corners is marked? Like any
Yes.
drill holes? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the property there is wall bound between myself and Howard Bordelais.
Okay.
So there's no question there. And I'm not on the boundary by any means. We're down, I believe, around 60 feet from the boundary.
And I'm not sure, Adam, do you have any idea
I'm listening.
what's, like, is this the lot line of the neighbor? Is that the corner?
I just tried to zoom in on the paper.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
That
Because,
certainly appears to be.
Number 16 is Bordelais lot.
This is Bordelais.
Yes.
yeah. So to the east. But see here, it doesn't appear as though, like if you look at the corner on GIS, it doesn't appear as though the pond is cut by the property
But the
line.
pond is on the other side of the road.
Correct.
This is, he's got the floodplain out. So this is a copy of, did you download that from GIS or is that a
Yes.
copy of an old,
Nope.
Zoning map.
That was from GIS.
okay.
So that's the DEP wetlands that you're seeing. And
Oh,
there's-
okay.
There's a thread through it, which is the stream.
Okay. But it just doesn't add up in terms of,
So you
like,
got a crack, I don't know. So here you can see the dark line there,
goes
threading
through
through.
it.
So that's the
Yeah.
perennial stream, or the intermittent,
Yeah.
however it is, but.
But
this is
what
the-
I'm wondering is this,
Here, look,
Lot
there isn't a lot corner. It's wiggly. It follows the brook. The brook is the
okay.
property line there.
okay, all right. So okay, that makes more sense, all right. I'm just trying to get an idea of the scale, because on
Yeah.
GIS, it shows like 190 feet of frontage, and figuring some of it is the edge of the wetland, and then a 50-foot driveway, so,
It's funny because I can't get it to show me the frontage.
If it's of any help, I have an overlay, an app that has an overlay of the GIS with the aerial. I can
on it,
show, but
I get about 240 or so if I measure it.
okay.
even
And again,
better.
I mean, it's a little bit less than 240, so it's around 200.
GIS has
No,
193.
193. I'm wondering if there's a change in direction maybe, but,
Oh, could be.
because yeah, because I mean,
It
if
looks
I'm.
straight here, I mean.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
believe you, I'm
neighbor's
just.
property, but, we've just had issues with not this particular project, but other projects further down Northfield Road where, the walls were disturbed and they were disturbed without permits, and then they wanted to open them up again. And the challenge for us is developing a defined scope. Like, this is the opening and this is what we're gonna do, and we're just trying to keep everybody on the same page so that everybody understands what's happening. And so, I think that's a much better picture. If it'd be possible to do a site visit, then we could physically see how it would lay out.
Sure.
In your discussions with DPW, did he have any issues with the entrance to the roadway?
No.
Okay,
No.
so,
Yeah, Rob had seen, because we even post marking of the trees, understood
Yep.
where I was looking at. I mean, there is obviously, where the brook comes through, there's the wetland to the right.
Yep.
And so I've chosen the highest point of entry,
yep,
and all the
And,
wetlands maps show that that's not wet.
I mean, you're 700 plus feet from the intersection, so it's not like someone coming off Chase Road is gonna come upon you in a cart full of hay and have to have some issue. You have plenty of room to see.
Unless the
Correct.
brakes go out.
I was more concerned about grade in terms
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
you know,
Getting
not
in and off.
undermining the
Yeah.
road and
Yep.
coming in and out and so on. And I don't think there's any stormwater infrastructure.
I don't believe so in
I
Northfield.
think it just,
If there is,
on the other end
if there is, it dumps into this wetland. So,
Yeah.
So the purpose of the site visit is to see the trees? that we're looking in
Essentially,
the
see
second
the
floor?
trees, and it'd be helpful if you could, like, physically stake out, and I guess our primary concern would be the bound with the property on the west side, because my interpretation would be that the driveway, even though it's exempt from provisions of the Wetland Protection Act, it should still respect the property offset, and it looks like there's plenty of room here, but it'd just be,
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-foot offset for driveways, so.
I mean, if that's the concern, I mean, clearly to me, that we're nowhere near a 5-foot, not 10-foot concern. I mean, again, I'm not an engineer, and this is my
Well,
first go-around with such a thing, but it seems to me to be something quite obvious, so.
do you know if there's a stone wall between the adjacent property and yours?
Between Bordelais and myself?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Well, that would be indicative of the property line right there, right?
It is, like I said, it
in
is
most
wall bound.
cases. I've got stone walls running through the middle of my properties.
So if he's 50 foot off of
The-
that stone
it-
wall, would that,
And we would be 50 feet off of it, but yes, we are, that is the property line.
Yep.
okay? Yeah.
And we're just trying to be consistent. I mean, the last
Understood.
3 or 4 applications we've seen for driveways have had full-blown engineered plans and gone through quite a bit of expense to lay it all out, so.
Again, in respect that this is an agricultural operation, this is not a development operation, this isn't a for-profit, this isn't a subdivision, this is a safety issue for farming equipment to travel between farms.
Yep.
So I'm not asking for special treatment, but an understanding that this isn't something that I'm splitting the property to sell it for a profit. This is so that I can
Yep.
safely travel.
Yep.
I think Mr. Latanzi will tell you that I told him that the board would say exactly what you just said to him, so.
Well,
Well, at least
We're consistent.
Understood. And, yep. And I believe my response has been consistent as well.
so we also have the hearing for 12:55. Does anybody have any more to add to this particular application? I mean, I suggested a site visit just because I know in the past it's resolved a lot of people's concerns and put us in a spot where we were able to quantify things and get a better understanding of it. But
Respectfully, I understand the advantage of a site visit. I'm just trying to understand the concerns that we're within 5 feet of a property line.
it would be the entire application, so the trees are marked, but the trees aren't marked in the photographs. I don't know how many of us have physically visited the site. I have not. And so we could physically identify the trees and then also get an idea of the size of the opening, because in my time on the board, we have never allowed somebody to open 50 feet of wall.
Okay.
Under any circumstance. Most of the openings are in the realm of 15 feet for residential driveways.
Wasn't the shed 125 on Flat Hill?
I think it was 20.
It was at least 20.
20, yeah.
We never did a site walk on the other Northfield property either, did we? We should have done that too.
We did one for the one on Flat Hill.
Right.
So, and that seemed to resolve a lot of issues in that particular.
That's a huge mess, by the way. But anyways, I'll mention it later.
Okay. Mrs. Bertram, Mr. Torgensen, do you have anything to add? Any comments on a site visit, no site visit?
I think a site visit makes sense. I'd like to understand the opening. I'd like to understand the impact of on the stone wall. I'd like to understand, exactly what trees. So I think a site visit is a great idea.
Okay.
Regards to the site visit, it would depend on day and time.
Okay. I think the last time we shot for a Saturday.
Last time we did it at, we did an evening. It was
Okay.
5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was 5 o'clock.
So if nobody else has anything to add, I would entertain a motion on this. Any?
So do we need to continue this to a certain time and date?
Yep.
I mean, I think it sounds like continue it to the next meeting would be the,
Yep.
Assuming we can get something between now and then, right?
yeah,
Yep.
you have,
And you
you
don't
have a full
need-
2 weeks.
And we don't need the entire board.
And you
It's-
don't need to post it because it's a site walk, as long
Yeah.
as you're not deliberating.
Sounds like a piece of cake.
Yep. So with that, I would entertain a motion to continue the public
I
hearing.
think you should schedule the site walk before you continue, just to keep it all within the hearing.
Okay.
So we've got 2 weekends between now and then. Are we gonna do it on weekend or weekday?
Personally, I would prefer a weekday.
Okay.
Weekday, I think she said.
Evening.
I'm flexible,
Yep.
so.
How about next Monday evening? Would that work for people's schedule?
21st?
I think,
I'm assuming we're planning to do it fairly early. I have another meeting at 7, but we'll be done by then, I would think.
I would say like 5. Is that?
Yeah, okay.
I won't be able to make that, but you don't need me to.
Okay.
trying to remember if building reuse is meeting every other week or not. I don't think so. So I'm gonna say that's fine too.
Okay.
But like I said, I've seen the site already, so.
All right. So we will schedule a site visit for March 21st at 5 PM. Does that work for you? And with that, I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 780 Northfield Road to March 28th, 2022 at 6:05 PM.
So moved.
Roll call.
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call vote. Mrs. Bertram?
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
And I for myself. Excellent. Our next hearing is 1255 Lancaster Ave.
I'll send out a reminder about that.
Thank you.
All right, so the Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on tonight via Zoom video conference to hear and review an application to relocate a driveway at 1255 Lancaster Avenue, map 139, parcel 1, under MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C, Scenic Road Designations, and under MGL Chapter 87, Section 3, cutting of public shade trees by removing 1 tree and 40 feet of stone wall. The removed stones will be used to close off the existing driveway. Owner applicant James Allison Latanzi, 331 Marshall Road, Fitchburg, Mass. The application is available for viewing at the Planning Office, 960 Mass Ave, Lunenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. You're welcome. You're up again, Mr.
Good evening, James Latanzi from Hollis Hills Farm in Fitchburg. Back for a very similar discussion. This location is a farm that I've leased for the last 10 years and operated a hay operation there. We had the opportunity to purchase it this past year and did so. The lower field on the southernmost point of the property is roughly 4.5 to 5 acres where we make hay. The existing access in and out of that field is on basically the worst point in the curvature of Lancaster Avenue, and it has made it for a very dangerous situation to enter and exit from the hayfield. I'm proposing to move that driveway that field access. Farther south, and then you can see in the picture, there's one white oak tree that I'm looking to remove, and the section of stone wall on either side of that. The tree is currently centered in what would be the middle of the driveway, and so I'm looking to remove 20 feet of wall on the left and 20 feet on the right. Again, would be moving the driveway farther south, and it gives you an excellent line of sight in both the northerly and southerly directions. Again, a complete safety issue for moving equipment in and out.
Any questions from any member of the board?
Nope. From recollection, that looks like where the existing driveway is to the existing house?
No.
No,
There's no
no
house.
house.
This is further down.
This is further south.
Okay.
So
Further
this
south.
is where,
Okay.
what's that, Jocelyn, Gibson? Gibson
It's-
pops
okay.
out.
It's
Okay.
south of
On
Gibson.
So it's across from where the old alpaca farm used to be?
That's Gibson there.
Right.
Correct.
So this is a hill.
Yes.
Stillman's is.
It's at the toe of the hill, and he wants to move it to the,
I guess sight distance would be 6 one, half dozen the other, in my opinion, but
Unless you are trying to exit in a tractor, you would know otherwise.
your sight distance, right?
Yes, the sight distance from operating.
Right.
I might point out, Mr.
Yeah.
Cole may be experienced in entering and exiting this site
Yeah.
as he stacked hay here for me.
And the elevation certainly works better
being
Because
at
the
the
current
crest
driveway
curve as
is
opposed
like-
to the sag?
down, so you're pulling up onto the road versus this would put you on higher ground, and further away from the intersection. And your plan would be to take the berm that's there down, essentially flatten it
To
out.
cut the grade, yes.
So regardless of what the width is, even if you tried to locate a driveway that was smaller in between the trees, you're essentially gonna end up killing a tree or two anyway by the time you're done the earthwork, so.
Again, the width on this, I looked at a 40-foot width because directly behind the stone wall, you enter the hayfield. And so you've got room on both sides to shoot with a piece of equipment versus having to enter into a straight line where you would be entering. This would give me, I can be a little bit narrower, but again, the equipment that we drive in and out, specifically a tractor, hay baler, wagons, I mean, the whole rig's 70 feet long and like a big snake. And so, but I do have more room behind this versus on Northfield Road, where I would be entering into a straight driveway. This opens up immediately behind the wall.
Mr. Chairman, in the past, in the property on Flat Hill Road, did we ask the property owner to replace the stone wall that was disturbed?
Yes.
So
in
my
the-
question,
So in the
my
area,
question-
yep, go ahead.
my question would be in the area that where the current driveway is, to put the stone wall, replace that area with a stone wall.
That's what Mr. Latanzi's planning on doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So the stones wouldn't leave the site, they'd just be moved from one section farther down to close off the existing
Okay.
driveway.
So you end up
Okay.
with the same opening, just in a different place.
Correct.
Less one tree?
Less one tree.
Well, and the 40-foot opening's gonna be a little bit wider, but not,
That opening down the bottom is pretty wide.
yeah, until you put a tractor in.
Well,
I'd say it's currently 30, but we usually end up driving over the wall itself, and it's, again, hard on equipment, so
Yep.
I'm proposing a safe, proper
Yep.
access.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I should have noticed it because I read it, but the previous, in both of these applications, he specified length of stone wall and trees, so. We asked something that was already there.
So they're both 50 foot.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Lancaster Ave is 40 feet. I requested 50 feet
Okay.
on Northfield.
Anybody else?
Oh, I'm good with it.
Mr. Torgensen, do you have anything to add? Any members from the public?
Public hearing.
She joined, or this person joined, so I just wanted to,
Make sure.
yeah.
Yep. All right. I don't see any other
No?
issues with it.
You want to approve this one?
I think that makes sense. Do you have anything to add?
I don't, no. Pretty cut and dry.
All right. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for 1255 Lancaster Avenue, Scenic Road.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, roll call vote. Mrs. Bertram?
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
And I for myself. And so now we can look at issuing an approval. Any further discussion? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the Scenic Road application for 1255 Lancaster Avenue as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Mrs. Bertram,
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen, Mr. Torgensen,
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
and I for myself. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you much. See you all next Monday at
5
5
p.m.
o'clock.
Yep,
At 780 Northfield Road.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you.
excellent. Moving on to Leominster Road, Scenic Road, application for Unitil's reliability project. Mr. Allison, would you like to do the honors for us?
Do I have, okay. Super,
That's a
thank you.
long one.
Oh, no. The Lunenburg Planning Board and the Lunenburg Tree Warden will hold a public hearing under MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C, Scenic Road Designations under MGL Chapter 87, Section 3, Cutting of Public Shade Trees on today, 6 o'clock, via Zoom conference to hear and review a request to remove 21 trees and prune 2 trees along Leominster Road from Sunny Hill Road to Kilbourne Street through the reliability project. Subject trees range from above 3 inches to 30+ inches and consist of the following species: hickory, black cherry, maple, cherry, elm, red oak, red maple, sugar maple, and Norway maple. Owners are the town of Lunenburg and various private parties. Applicant is Unitil, 357 Electric Ave, right here in Lunenburg. The application is available for viewing at the planning office, 960 Mass Ave in Lunenburg.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Allison. Would you gentlemen care to give us a quick rundown?
Sure. My name's Keith Carabo. I'm the manager of electric operations for Lunenburg, for Unitil right here in Lunenburg. Dave is our forestry supervisor, and Dave's the one who's helping us out with this part of it. I just came along to kind of go over what the project's about and why we need to do what we need to do. Currently, Circuit 30W30 is one of the two circuits that mainly feed Lunenburg. Goes out of the backside of West Street, comes up here, down Lancaster Ave, and also goes down Leominster Road. What we're trying to do is to help our reliability in all of our facilities, and this project is to reconductor down Leominster Road, go down through Kilburn to Goodrich over to Lancaster to make a circuit tie. So we have four different, it'll be, when we're said and done, 4 different ways to feed our facilities. We get a motor vehicle accident, we get a tree come down, we get storms happen, we have other ways to feed in our circuits. Right now, it's radially fed, so we're kind of limited if the damage is up towards this way. This kind of allows us to do a big circle and pick different parts apart. So I worked with Dave to try to find the best way to get ourselves there. What's our best way to make our big circle? And that's where we came through our, the certain areas. And one of the biggest impact areas were on Leominster Road. So Dave took a real hard look at what needs to be done for the most reliability and the less impact. So that's where Dave came with those trees. Dave is the forestry guy, so I will lead everything to him if you have any questions regarding that.
So there's 23 trees that we're going to be pruning or removing. 2 are pruning, 21 are removing. They range from 3 inches all the way up to 30 plus. Some of them have already had contact with the existing power lines and have burn marks in them that caused outages before. I went through and I marked all the trees and really took a hard look of making sure I was marking the right trees that would be in our way, because the poles are going to be replaced and the lines are going up 3 to 7 feet, which would put the lines higher than what they are now. So it's not just, oh, this tree's here and it's back a little bit. But it leans out over the road. The line is actually moving up. So that's what the main issue we had. So I really took the time and tried to make sure that I was only taking the certain amount of trees that we absolutely would need to. We'll be doing a 1-for-1 replacement, working with the tree warden to replace the trees along Leominster Road, and we'll also grind the stumps from the trees that we got.
It's worth also to add that the type of construction we're doing, I believe you see it in the picture, it's called a bundled construction, so it's not out on cross arms, it's a tight, right now we already have a single phase. When we go through see this, you're not going to see much difference for it because of the way it's built. It's also, in a heavier treat area, we do that type of construction, the Hendrix construction they call it, just bundled.
And it's the same construction that's down further by on Lancaster Ave, by Goodrich, where we're going to be coming out. There's a picture of them in the...
And you said you're pruning 2 and removing 19?
Yes.
Okay.
We will be pruning the whole road, but the ones that within that corridor that we've already pruned many times. But the 2 that are going to be less than 25%, but more than 15% live branch reduction is what I wrote up for pruning.
So I watched the select board meeting a week or 2 ago, and they were talking about the connection from Lancaster to Leominster along
Yep.
Kilburn. Is this dependent upon that, or this is probably just regular maintenance?
It's not so much dependent. That project is pretty much, it is budgeted for us. It is a reliability project that's on to move forward. This will help us enhance the reliability of that. Because the ones we put up are going to be a little taller just because our standards have changed. A lot of those poles are old 35-foot poles, and our standards have changed. They're a little higher. But at the same time, I asked Dave to take a look at the vegetation along that area. What can we do? If we're going to build $1 million project, I don't want trees to come down and take that out and just wipe out all our reliability. So Dave looked at the trees that were the best subjects. I'm sure that I don't want to really speak to it health-wise and what they look like too. Some of them, if you go through there, some of those are the different types of trees that are there. But he said, Dave, just I didn't want to go through and just do a ground to sky. That was not the intentions, and as you can see, it's not. He said that whole distance, which is probably roughly 6,000 feet, 21 trees, was a small number per mile. And we did look for the best ones to get our reliability without the least impact. We know it's a scenic road, so we're very specific when we come in front of you to do this type of work.
Thank you.
Now, it appears that all the trees are on one side of the road. Is that correct?
No.
Or
They are,
Each has a map that.
yeah, there's a couple pictures of them.
tough to see
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
how it breaks down. Okay, this, so
mean, it
down
looks
by Cherry Hill Farm.
Yeah.
They're on the right side of the road, it looks like, up until you get to Kilbourne, there's a couple on the other side of the road.
Yeah, and it
Or-
looks like up closer to Sunny Hill, it's pretty universal. It's both sides, because you can see the circles kind of butting up against each other.
Okay,
between Sunny Hill and Prospect, they're all on the wire side of the road,
Okay.
which is,
okay,
would be towards the Fitchburg side.
okay,
And then as you go down, the line switch to the other side towards the Shirley side. So there's a couple
Okay.
trees going up to Cherry Hill. I think there's 6 trees on that side,
yep,
or give or take. And then the line switch back over right at Cherry Hill Farm. And there's a
Right.
pruning tree and a removal there. And then 2 more trees on the opposite side of the road, further down. So it looks like they've been hit by a car or something like that.
any questions or comments from the board?
Another question, I guess, is any of this gonna, none of this is gonna change when you do connect through Kilbourne, right?
Excuse me?
This is not gonna be impacted at all through the construction on Kilbourne?
No.
You need this regardless?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, this is really to help, this is one of our worst performance circuits, and every year the Department of Public Utilities asks us, what are we doing to work on our reliability? And this is, over many years and many different studies, this is the best route for us to help reliability without, a huge impact to all of the ratepayers.
So when they've asked you that in the past, what have you said?
We looked at different ways of looking at it. We looked at building lines from different areas. Rebuilding our lines that come up through our Fitchburg area, double circuiting. And then we'd be double circuit in Lunenburg, which is not a very attractive look to a pole, when you have double circuits, 2 sets of primaries.
Right.
So this is already taking a circuit that's already pole line, it's already in existence, taking it from a single line to a 3-phase line to help build our reliability.
I have to say, it's improved since 2008. The ice storm was 2008?
I believe that's the issue.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of citizens still not very happy with the company.
Well, we're doing an awful lot of work, and this is one of the things we're doing is reliability, so.
Sure.
We're trying those down and moving forward.
I understand. Goes both ways. Yes. Yep. So, I don't know if you were with us when they did this in the center of town?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Were you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, we did a very thorough site walk then.
Well, the challenge with that particular situation was it was scenic road, but it was also town-owned property. So it was Board of Selectmen because some of the trees were town property and planning because of the scenic road aspect.
Yep.
And in that particular situation, those trees were, for lack of a better term, higher profile, all around the gazebo and
Pretty much.
the center of town and sidewalks and people walking the area and so on, where this is a much more rural setting.
I don't think there are any sidewalks along any of these.
No,
No.
it was pretty
All
sketchy.
of the
Mark.
sidewalks were covered under the review the last time. Almost all, I think 99% of the sidewalks in town were
Yeah.
covered.
Town, yeah.
Yeah. All 2,000 feet of them.
Well, no, that's not, because there is Whalen Road. It's a
Yeah.
pretty lengthy
Yep.
stretch.
I mean, I don't have any issues with any of these trees. The breakdown size-wise, there's only a handful that are of great significance. 12 out of the 19 are less than 12 inches in diameter. And a good portion of that area is not high-quality trees to begin with. A lot of
There's
bittersweet.
a lot- yeah, I was gonna say, there's a
growing
ton
all
of
over
bittersweet
stuff
down
and
there.
wild grape and so on. So this is, in a lot of ways, a much needed.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is subject to these frequent outages, it's really, it's real.
I see. It's all about the people down there on Kilburn and.
No, I mean, luckily I have a generator, so it doesn't affect me too much, but the lights blink more often than I care to admit.
Now that we've got the forester here, what do you do when you come across invasives like that? Do you try to get rid of it, or do you just get what you need to out?
We try to get rid of it.
Yeah?
I mean, it's hard without using herbicides, and
It is.
and we don't do that on distribution, so.
Well, every little bit you get, we appreciate.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Any public comment?
None that I see.
All right. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the Unitil reliability project.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Mrs. Bertram,
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
and I for myself. And now we can look at approval. Any sort of conditions? I don't.
I mean, I think that they've committed to a one-to-one replacement, which would be their mitigation plan, which will be included in the decision. But, I mean, unless the board has other specific conditions, I think the plan is pretty well laid out within the submission. And
The trees are going to be removed from the site?
What,
Oh,
I
yes,
mean, the cuttings?
yes,
The cuttings?
yes.
so would you like that as a condition?
I would.
Yeah, some angry woodhounds.
So now that we've closed. So now that we've closed the hearing, we can't ask anything about the tree warden's input to county.
No.
what was your concern with the,
Doesn't matter, we can't ask.
Can I
you
give
can
a
ask
comment for
the
that?
entire board.
I don't think we closed the hearing, so we're not allowed
You
to
can't
have
take
it.
new testimony.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
deliberate.
Right, yeah. But that's what we would be doing, is deliberating amongst ourselves.
But,
But if we're
I
gonna
mean,
put
the
a
board,
condition,
can speculate, but it's not, you can't intake information that's
Well, I'm just saying, in the absence
Yeah, I
of the tree warden, we're not gonna get an answer anyway.
true.
So,
oh, you mean asking the tree warden, sorry, I misunderstood.
yeah,
And I did talk to the tree warden.
okay.
Oh, that-
But we can't,
Right.
at this point, we can't take
Right.
testimony, but what was your concern, Mr. Ellis?
Well, I read tree warden here. Lunenburg Planning Board and the tree warden,
Yep,
and he is technically in charge of those trees, street trees.
yep.
I can't ask anything, so.
Well, I don't think we have a tree warden.
Well, unfortunately, we don't, so,
So,
We're due until the 17th, I thought, no?
Nope.
Oh,
the 11th.
No, he's gone.
yeah, so, it's a moot point.
kind of a
at this-
moot point, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
So, any other things to add?
Nope, not from me.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the Scenic Road tree removals as detailed by Unitil's reliability study and conditioned as Mrs. Bertram stated.
The wood is to be removed from the site.
Site, correct, yep.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Mrs. Bertram?
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen? Mr. Torgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
And I for myself. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Finally, agenda.
The next is the endorsement of the North End Subaru. We finally received a clean bill of health from Graves on the,
Now I found it.
Oh, okay.
See?
on the project up there. So the roll of plans is here for those here to sign, and those not here can swing through the office and sign them when they have a moment.
Okay, and I've got, I think this is all,
That's just
That's-
backup.
okay,
That's minutes from when it was approved, so that the board is aware of
what the
why
condition-
we're
what
back here having you sign it after it was approved last summer.
Okay, all right. So we can endorse those.
You can
at the
endorse it,
end.
yeah, it doesn't need to be during the meeting.
Okay. Moving on to minutes approval for January 24th, 2022. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I don't, and I would make a motion to approve the minutes of January 22.
Second.
All those in favor? Mrs. Bertram?
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
And I for myself. All right, moving on to committee reports. Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee.
So we met the 7th, I believe. We've got, I don't know, we reorganized. Mr. Jeffries, the representative select board, is now the chair. Mr. Roy is still with us, but he's a member at large and just a member. Dave Passios has been replaced as a FinCom representative by Mr. Peter Beardmore. Our last meeting was quite productive, I think. We kind of gathered, we rounded the wagons, discussed everything that had gone on, and we got a fairly clear, Mr. Jeffries had put a flow chart together while we were in the meeting, and it seemed pretty good path to go down. We discussed the property line at the TC Passios. I think the consensus was that it's not as important right now. We're looking to focus on the use and disposition of the town hall, the Ritter, and trying to figure out what kind of moving parts we can put together for very little money. Apparently the budget and the time frame seem to be important, but my opinion was that they're not as important as the raw idea of what we need for space. Anyways, we've invited 3 of the previous building reuse committee members to our next meeting, and we're going to take it from there. We've got hard copies of all the TAPE and the Vertex, and we're trying not to recreate the wheel. We're trying not to regurgitate and redo stuff that's already been done. Trying to kind of streamline and avoid going in circles.
Excellent. AgCom.
AgCom. We had a very short meeting last time. The primary focus of it was the farmers market. We had previously we had 2 market managers. This year, one of the managers is not able to fulfill his duties, so Michael is not going to be with us this year. He would like to still participate as best he can, but as it is right now, Shanina Burns will be our market manager. We went over some draft changes to the market. The discussion was about starting later, because the last year it was very difficult. There was not much more than potted plants and whatnot available, crafts and whatnot, but the veggies and stuff weren't available yet. And this suggestion was made to go every other Sunday for the season. So the discussion was had and decision was made to let the market manager modify the application and send it out as a draft to last year's vendors and anybody who's expressed interest for this year. And at our next meeting, which I believe will be this Thursday, we're going to go over and approve the regime for this year.
The only comment I would have on going every other week would be that I feel like people get into a rhythm, and if you want to,
I completely agree.
If you want to keep the crowd, yeah, it's hard to remember if it's
I completely
is it a
agree.
market weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and I felt that same way. I'm certainly open to letting, the vendors make the final decision. But again, it's not just the vendors, it's also the people that come. So, I've had various thoughts, and like maybe every other weekend is the full market, and then in the middle, then the vendors don't show up, but maybe there's an activity. I really don't know, but I share your concerns, and I will voice them at our meeting.
I think it's it's easier for folks who are shopping there to know every Sunday they can go and do market, and then figure out what they need to get from not market.
Yep.
And if you do it every other week, it becomes a hassle trying to figure out whether you want to actually spend the time to go to market.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes a weekly thing in that June to October timeframe.
Yep.
especially for a vendor like Tully, that
Mm-hmm.
the milk doesn't last 2 weeks.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of especiallys. So that's where we're
Stormwater Task Force,
We have not had a meeting.
okay. Open space,
We met on March 1st, and Brandon Kibbe has stepped down as chairman, and our new chairman is Mike Toohill. And Bob Pease is no longer the Conservation Commission representative. I'm not sure who that's going to be. Bob has been a great asset to the committee and will be missed. At the meeting, we reviewed the tax lien sale list. And this is something that the town manager forwarded to the open space to see if there were any parcels that the open space committee felt the tax lien should not be sold. We did recommend removal of 56 Carr Avenue, 250 Hollis Road, 356 Hollis Road, and 101 Pleasant Street to allow various boards and the open space committee to investigate further options on those parcels. We continue to discuss options for Lake Shirley, for the area known as Stump Cove and the parcel there. The first step in determining what should be done with that parcel is to get a clean title. A lot of research has been done, and we just can't get anywhere with determining how it became owner unknown, and before the town, it's listed as town-owned property. But before anything can be done with the parcel, it would have to be determined that the town has clear title. So we'll be requesting at some point permission from the selectmen to do a title search. And the plan is to pay for it with the donation from Bright Farms. Preliminary discussions are about a canoe kayak portage and maybe a couple of parking spaces there. We're not talking about a motorized boat ramp or anything like that, but just more public access there. Conservation Commission continues to clean up the titles of the owner unknown parcels. There's a lot of parcels in town that just simply say owner unknown. And identifies the town of Lunenburg as the owner. So conservation's working on cleaning up anything like that that isn't conservation land or is adjacent to conservation land. There is a meeting on the Marshall Park design on March 16th. We just noted that. And that was really the gist of the whole meeting.
Nice. I have a question on the 101 Pleasant parcel. Does that abut the existing large parcel on Pleasant Street?
It does.
It does, and does it also have, it must have frontage?
It's the parcel
Yeah.
that the subdivision was proposed on, that got
Oh,
picked apart
Yep.
down to a two-lot A&R.
okay.
Yep.
So how much frontage is left?
Well, no, that parcel is in title, so they're asking that
okay.
whole parcel just get,
Okay, good. Thank
and
you.
the others that were listed are the former Hollis Hills comprehensive permit.
Yep.
The Lake Lodge.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the Lake Lodge property, which is 4+ acres. It's the Carr Ave property, which is, I think, 11 or 12 acres. And then it's the other Hollis Road property, which is 20-some odd acres. So it's a total of 35 or 37 acres.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Capital planning.
Is that me too?
Yep.
We haven't had a meeting.
Economic development is me, and I did not attend the last.
They met and had a visit from Kevin Kuros, who is the EDIP rep for the Central Region from the state, for all economic development incentive programs. And he kind of just ran over what his job is and how he might be able to help the town. We have a PowerPoint that I just got today that we'll be forwarding around, and essentially he's there to help with business development and help direct businesses who need assistance or want to locate, either through himself or through Mass Development or one of the other agencies in the Commonwealth that are supporting businesses.
Excellent. MRPC and.
We don't have reps for either of those right now.
All right. Moving on to director's items.
So I'm just going to flip it backwards. I'm going to start with C. What you have before that are the two, and the two categories of things that the board may wish to put on the annual town meeting. The non-medical marijuana addresses the issue of whether or not someone needs a provisional license to apply to the board. The top is what exists. The portion underneath is council's recommended language to satisfy the board's inquiry previously. Again, he does not concede that the current language doesn't require it, but that the new language would, in his opinion, be a bit more clear in requiring someone to do so. So, I mean, we can certainly discuss this. We can just schedule the public hearing. The board can say, you know what, we don't want to do it, and not put it on the warrant. That's...
No, I mean, my take on it is it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's a known issue that was presented, and this is council's recommendation, so I think we should schedule a hearing and move forward.
Not to contradict you, but I understood it to be the council's opinion that didn't need it, wasn't necessary.
Well, what council said is he's not going to concede to the applicant's counsel that the board's interpretation of this language isn't correct, but the new language is more thoroughly clear about that requirement.
Now, if you could refresh our memories, the
Applicant's counsel felt that this language didn't require the submission of a preliminary license. It just required all potential licenses and permits from the Commonwealth. And his assertion was that they couldn't open without the license from the Commonwealth, thus the planning board shouldn't need to worry about
the license prior
getting
to
that
site plan.
provisional license.
So I guess I should have just gone ahead and stated it, is that my recollection was that we went ahead and told the applicant that we would entertain the application.
This particular applicant, the board did.
Right, so we've only got 2 shots at this.
Correct.
So why waste time at town meeting on an article that we don't even need, is my opinion.
Why don't we need it?
Well, the first person that brought it up, we made the decision that we weren't gonna require them to do whatever it was that they thought they might need to, at the ambiguity apparently, but we've only got 2 shots at this. If that person comes in, then it's the next one, and then we're done with it.
Well, and I guess, as I said at the previous hearing or appointment when this issue first came up, I would be in favor of clarifying the language so that it just puts the permitting process on the straight and narrow, because I would be concerned about an applicant coming to us, starting the site plan approval, and thereby holding a spot in the process without having their approval done from the state. I mean, when we went through all of the marijuana stuff, the intent, whether or not the language clearly reflects it or not, but the intent was that these applicants go in front of the selectmen, get their host community agreement, go to the state, get all their licenses done, and then the final step would be site plan approval and the special permit with planning board. That was the intent. And I agree with town council that I think the existing language states that, but it's been challenged, and I think it makes sense to just clarify it.
Okay, I can go either way, honestly. Especially when it comes to town meeting, I think less is more. But, again, just my opinion.
I think it makes sense to clarify the language.
Mr. Torgensen, do you have anything to add? So,
I don't have any.
So I'll put that together for submission before Monday.
okay. And we'll schedule a public
Yeah,
hearing.
we'll do it on, it's already tentatively on the schedule for April 11th.
Okay.
And that would give the board the 11th and the 25th to mop up that if necessary prior to town meeting.
Okay.
So if there were outstanding questions on the article, you could continue the hearing and still have time to address them and wrap it up.
Okay. Then we don't need a motion at this point. We'll
No.
do that once we get into the hearing. And then the other item would be,
The Water Supply Protection District, which ends up being like 3 or 4 articles, because it's modifying the actual Water Supply Protection District, it's modifying the district delineation portion of the bylaw, and it's modifying the zoning map. So it ends up being one article that requires all of those things to be done, and in my opinion, it's a better article to do them each as separate articles, just for clarification, but they all get sort of presented as one. We talked before about what DEP specifically wanted from the bylaw, and so I reached back out, and the woman who I had been working with DEP had left DEP. And no one really knew what to do. So I reached out to the Water District and their consultant looked at it and said, I know what they want, I can write the recommended updates. And so that's what you have here in front of you, which is why it took so long, because he had to do it, and then it had to go up the chain and down the chain through his firm.
okay.
It really comes down to fairly minimal alterations. It removes some uses in the Zone 1, which isn't a big deal because all of our Zone 1s are owned by the Water District, so no one's doing anything in them anyway. It reduces impervious cover in the Zone 2 by 5% from 20% to 15%, or 2,500 square feet, whichever is greater. and then requires artificial recharge, as long as it doesn't degrade groundwater. And all of this is intended to meet with the requirements of DEP's water protection CMR. And then under the zone 3, nope, it's still in zone 2. It changes the amount of hazardous material that one treats or stores, which I think is, again, not necessarily a bad thing, and I don't think it's going to have a significant impact. 220 gallons or 2,000 total pounds per month, as opposed to at any one time. So in theory, you could every day dump 250 gallons, and that would be one time. So it adds septage and sludge storage as prohibited in the zone 2, which again, I don't know that that is necessarily terrible. And then mining needs to be more than 4 feet above the groundwater table, which is something the board was in favor of previously when we were working on earth removal.
And that mining language only applies to,
Earth removal permits
Okay.
from the Board of Selectmen.
but within those zones. So if you're
Correct.
outside those
Correct.
zones.
If you're outside of any of the water supply protection district, you can dig right on into groundwater, according to this.
Neat.
So if the board wants to move forward with these, in addition to the map updates, I will schedule the hearing at the same time, and I'll invite the water district superintendent to represent his side of it, and to outline what benefits or detractions this may have to his operation. And I'll have, I know there was some question about what impact this would have on properties, and I'll have a better accounting of that at that time.
Okay.
So,
And I was just gonna ask about impact on property, so.
I got this late Thursday. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it and look at what it would do to the properties.
so earth removal in zone 2 has to be above 4 feet from groundwater.
Correct.
And does the earth removal permit discuss how that's supposed to be achieved? Is there any discussion, how are they supposed to know where 4 feet is? Usually when you're digging a hole, you hit groundwater, and oh, we're there.
Well, I would infer that if someone, well, this is a zoning bylaw, so it's not retroactively applied. It's for uses going forward. Everything currently under excavation is a pre-existing non-conforming use. So if one were to apply for earth removal, it is a use outlined in our use table, thus would be a change of use.
So then shouldn't we update the earth removal? Oh, it's not ours, it's select
Correct.
board's. Aha, select board need to update the earth removal
Well,
permit.
And we could certainly communicate with them about that, but they would also be subject to site plan approval,
Oh,
at which point,
and we can point out that, we got your permit already from select board, but you didn't get it the right way.
well, and they could be,
It's
could-
real useful.
well, but they could be required, they would need a special permit in the Water Supply Protection District.
Yeah.
And they would need a site plan approval, at which time the board could condition those things. And to your point about how do they know where groundwater is, well, we could just require them to do a test hole.
Okay,
And that would provide the groundwater, and then you could,
but we need to write it in the regulations for it to have any effect.
well, the select board would need to include that as part of their.
We don't write, they do.
Correct.
Yes,
So I think at the
the
time,
town does.
at the time that this were proposed, if it were to pass, the board could then pass that information along to the select board that this is something they should be monitoring per zoning.
Okay, well, I would also suggest that they put in some language on how to determine groundwater elevation.
I mean, I think the reference to
Monitoring well.
to CMR is the way to do it. I mean, I think historically, this board has used the Title V method.
Well, as long as we use the Title V method and not the stormwater method, because the stormwater method is not valid anymore. Oh, no, that's percolation. Sorry, never mind.
So, I mean, it would be up to them what they wanted to use as the classification.
Sure.
I mean, we spent a lot of time going through all that earth removal stuff, and unfortunately, it was narrowly
little bit of
defeated.
time.
Clog my
2
brain with
years.
stuff that's not there.
You know, and, you know, these type of situations just highlight the fact that the existing process is very fuzzy. It's just, and I feel bad for the applicants because you're going through multiple processes at this point. Because you gotta go to the select board and get your earth removal, and then you gotta come here and get site plan approval and most likely a stormwater permit. And now we've added the water supply stuff on top of that, or modified it as it exists, but, I don't know.
So what are we looking for action on this?
I mean, the board was concerned about what the impacts of the alteration would be, which is why we pulled stuff in the special back in fall.
Okay.
So this is what the alterations look like. If the board feels comfortable with them, then I would say we would proceed to town meeting in the spring.
Well, in the fall, we didn't even have the regs.
Oh, correct. The regs came at the last minute, and we decided
Right.
to not do,
Yeah.
the board decided
Yep.
they didn't want to do just the map. They wanted to see what this looked like, and now we have this.
Because we would have ended up going back at spring
Correct.
to do the regs.
And now we
because
can do
had
it all
no
at
regs.
once.
Yep.
And that was a function of DEP just getting back to everybody late,
Correct.
so. But, no, I mean, it's required that the water district move this stuff forward, and we are the body to move zoning items forward. As I've said earlier, I feel like this is more their jurisdiction than ours, but we are the zoning.
It is, and I mean, I guess
Aspect of
in
things,
theory,
and
they could do it by citizen petition. I think it's cleaner for the board to do it
Oh, certainly.
as a partnership with the water district, and
Yep.
I'm sure if we requested that Mr. McNamara be there to say his piece, he
through
would,
it.
he
Yep.
would come along.
Yep. No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think you should be required to be at the town meeting.
Yeah, I think it's really vital that Mr. McNamara be there to talk
Well,
through it.
All we can do is ask. I don't have any power to require him, but I'm sure if he was requested, he would attend.
Well, I think if you ask him and say if he's not there, we're gonna pull the article, then I think that would ensure that he's there.
If that's the board's position, then that's what I'll represent.
Okay? Well, I think that's my
Either
position.
Mr. McNamara or a water commissioner. I mean, someone from the water district, represent the water district.
I think Mr. Allison brought up a good point with the earth removal type interaction with this. I don't know. I know that's been a difficult process for a lot of people in town, on the permitting side. I certainly have mixed feelings about how that process works right now. I certainly feel like it's a planning board issue, and in the interest of the applicant, it makes a lot more sense for it to be here than it does to go to the Board of Selectmen and then come to us. You know, we have our peer review engineer and a laid out process to get through everything, but I don't know. It's,
I think the board made a significant effort to ease that process.
yeah.
And I think the board even extended invitations and heard extensive testimony from those in town that are often subject to that. And
Some of the ones that voted against it.
I was gonna say, and at town meeting, it was,
27 to 29 with 2 selectmen voting against.
I mean, between the select board and the folks that you invited to give input that appeared to be on board with what the board was proposing. I'm not sure what else the board can put forward.
I don't know.
You know, a
I just
15-fold increase on a threshold seems generous.
Certainly.
Something you wouldn't complain about, but
Yeah, certainly.
I don't know.
I'm just bringing it up because I think, Mr. Allison, you brought up a very good point with the groundwater offset and testing and so on, and it just refreshed my memory in terms of, I mean, we went through that whole process for 2 years.
Yeah.
We went to town meeting twice and modified it heavily and heard a lot of testimony, and I just bring it up as a talking point more than anything else. I certainly don't like to go back to town meeting with the same thing looking for approval, but I also feel like under the circumstances, it's something that at least should be on our radar, especially with the amount of development going on and big projects coming to town that would certainly be impacted by earth removal activities.
Well, I think ultimately, though, subdivisions and building permits preclude the earth removal process.
True, yep, so they would be exempt.
So that, yeah, and they would fall within this board's purview for cuts and fills and that kind of stuff, which I think sort of streamlines the process in a way, but.
and just to throw a wrench in there, I think Butterfly Lane shouldn't have been exempt, but that's just my opinion.
How so?
What, they get 700,000 yards out of that sand?
The road was under construction when I got here.
Well,
They
it
got a lot.
also becomes a function of timing, because if you have a applicant that is going to conduct earth removal first and then put houses in, theoretically, they could start the process with no building permits, no road, no concept, and just say, hey, we're gonna get the
We're gonna strip
material
it,
out
yeah.
first. I don't know. But town meeting's right around the corner, so if we wanted to take any action, then we certainly don't have much time. I guess the upside is we already know what we would propose because we've worked on it for 2 years.
I was gonna say, I would need to know by Monday that the board wanted it filed, because that's when it's all due.
Okay.
I'm not inclined to do that with 4 members select board right now. Or in general, really, given our past experiences.
Yeah, I'm not either. I don't, right.
But we
I
don't
think
need
we
the
did
select board
a lot of
for
work, and
Really?
I don't know that it's gonna pass this time either.
I mean, they make a recommendation on,
On the article.
On the article,
But it
so-
would be our article.
yeah, and I honestly, I think the split board was a big part of what sank it the last time.
Mm-hmm.
So while you don't technically need them from an optics perspective, it's helpful if they're supportive.
Yeah.
And every single one counts in the tally.
For sure. Yep.
All right, so I'm good with this. Is that?
Yeah, so I'll get those packaged up
And
and
we don't
ready
need
to go.
vote on anything.
No, because, I mean,
And that was it for your,
that's it for me.
okay.
I mean, I can give you the ongoing items updates.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pond View, we haven't heard anything. Still radio silence. I did speak to someone, not necessarily about this project, but they indicated their experience with mass housing recently has been less 90 days and more 9 months. So
That's
that could
interesting.
certainly have an impact on that.
Well, we're rolling up on 9 months pretty quickly here because that was September.
It was September that we submitted, so, you know, one would think
We're at-
May, June.
Okay. Stay tuned.
Yeah. I mean, we're all just holding on.
Yep. Master plan.
That, we're waiting for town meeting action. And once we get the authorization, we'll bulk out the RFP and we'll get it out the door.
All right. Meeting schedule, we meet at 6 PM, Town Hall. Our next meeting is March 28th, and then April 11th for the public hearing for our zoning warrant articles. Any public comment? Nope. None. Any comments from the board? Mr. Allison, do you have a?
Yeah, speaking of Pondview, that, if that gets approved by the state, then it's done, right? It's going.
Well, no, then it needs to go through the comp permit process.
And
with
we
the
need to
zoning
rubber
board.
stamp it. Yeah.
It
So
needs to go through the comp permit process. I mean,
It's
that
gonna-
can be
it's
a
gonna
denial.
create, how can that be a denial? We're not in safe harbor.
We've denied comp permits before in this town.
To get sued over, yeah.
Well, but
We haven't done it legally. Apparently.
have they built those comp permits? I guess is my question.
So-
And that's outside our wheelhouse.
I understand
because
that,
that's ZBA.
but my concern is that if that does get approved by the state, then it's pretty much green lighted, and it pretty much means that we're going to have sewer all the way down Chase Road and then up West Townsend and then,
And
right?
this is one of the things that has come up through this whole process. And what the actual impact of that is still in question. Because town meeting is the body that extends the sewer district. So if it were approved by the state, and if the zoning board were to issue an approval, the question remains whether the sewer district would extend along the line, or whether it would be an island of included sewer district that is 19 acres of the Pondview Commons development. And the entirety of the line from Chase Road, or from Mass Ave, up Chase Road, up West Townsend, and down Howard,
I know what you're talking about.
was
The perfect-
excluded.
The perfect example is the trailer park.
Correct.
Right, the sewer stops at the primary, and then there's a line, what is it, a mile and a half?
Yeah,
Yeah,
On a pump
that's a
system,
private
yeah.
line for
right,
that,
a
yeah.
private line for a private lot. Now you're saying that that could be the possibility?
I think the design would have to be different, because clearly you're taking much higher flows from Pondview, but I believe that that's entirely possible that that could be the outcome.
All right, so how about if it's not the outcome and it becomes a trunk line and,
Then everybody who it goes by has the opportunity to hook up, yes.
right, okay, so could we preempt that by looking at possibly rezoning that corridor?
You could.
I mean, would it behoove us? Would it negate a lot of the potential negative impacts that a lot of people have about running sewer,
What would you look to rezone it to, commercial, industrial?
commercial? Or industrial, I don't know.
I mean, but, yeah, and that's more of a general category
It
than a
negates-
zoning district.
It negates the ability to use that trunk line for housing.
But what exists along there?
A whole bunch of vacant buildings because nobody, well,
I would have to look at the zoning map. That's really why I'm pausing, is I'm not sure what the zoning map looks like over there off the top of my head.
I know a good portion of Chase Road is commercial, but
So, I mean, there's,
primarily down near.
it's once you get past West Townsend. I mean, I think you'd have a hard time rezoning West Townsend and Howard. So you're stuck with those as outlying. This.
it's not bad because that's Mulpus.
Correct.
size.
I mean, this large parcel is conservation land, this large parcel is APR. These are all small lot residential. This is, I mean, this is your one potential issue,
What did you point at was APR?
Lanning.
Oh, Lanning, okay.
I know Pierce, or now Latanzi, is not
Not,
APR. I also am under the impression that Mr. Latanzi just invested some significant capital in the property, as well as looking to forward the tree farm back to its previous glory. It certainly seems that that is not safe, but less hazardous. And then you have these parcels here, which, combined is maybe a total of 5 acres, maybe 10.
Okay, so I guess I've thought it would be a good idea to go beyond Beale Street. I've thought that for a very long time. And it seems like the majority of the pushback for that is the.
Yes,
right?
Yes, I agree. I think that there are people who are concerned about too much commercial.
So, but I guess if it's gonna get forced down our throats, if we have no choice in the matter, then I think it would behoove us to at least make it usable and not make it a single service, because that's a totally stupid, idiotic way to waste a whole bunch of money, in my opinion. Ripping up the road for one property 3 miles down the road.
One would infer that it would not be our money.
Well, I don't care whose money it is. I don't
Right.
really like wasting money, period.
I understand this.
And if it's gonna be invested and it's not our dime, I'd love to be able to benefit from it. Right?
Well, and I think that that's the crux of the issue is if it's their dime, we may not be able to benefit from it for that reason. And if we look to benefit from it, it may be our dime.
But just to clarify, you're suggesting to modify the zoning map to take areas that are currently residential and make them commercial in an effort to use a potential sewer system expansion to build commercial uses, which are preferential tax base-wise, versus residential uses.
I'm asking if we should be looking at that.
Okay. Now, one point to make that follows this is, my understanding is that currently you cannot access residential land through commercial.
That's correct.
So theoretically, any parcels that have frontage on Chase Road that's substantial goes back, they would be unable to develop residential uses through
Using Chase
that
Road as
commercial
access. That's
And
correct.
I'm just putting it out there because has a significant impact on how this plays out. So it's not necessarily that you would go down Chase Road and you would go half a mile in every direction. You could simply say, okay, from Chase Road, 100 feet, 200 feet,
I mean,
whatever the
generally,
number
I
is.
would look, if I were going to do it, I would say you just trace the rear of the parcels. And that avoids having split parcels and getting into situations like this, where you have
Yep.
this weird zoning line that goes through and then you
Yep.
get into zoning offset issues on a parcel. It's cleaner to follow the line rather than to do a fixed corridor length.
I guess my whole point in my comment there was pond view, and is that going to change the way we look at the previous discussions that have been in that direction?
I think the answer is maybe.
Maybe.
I think it's wholly indeterminate right now.
It's a solid maybe, I got you.
And I think
Definitely, probably might.
yeah, I think much like Powell's, there's a lot of moving parts to it, and until there's clarity on some of those things, we can't begin to really give a firm answer on what that looks like.
I do think that Mr. Allison raises a good point, and I think it's something we should be looking at. Unfortunately, I don't think we have enough time to do it for this town meeting.
No.
But I do think it's something that should be on the agenda to talk about and to look at. Because regardless of whether Pondview moves forward or not, it doesn't mean that another application isn't going to move forward. And I think that's something we should definitely be looking at. I will say that town council put together a very compelling letter on reasons why this site is not appropriate. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they take that stuff into account. The water district is a big hurdle because an active legislature would be needed. And town council outlines that in his correspondence, but I do think it's something we should put on an agenda and really start looking at.
Well, I think zoning in general probably should be,
Well, and I think that that's a huge, that's a big component of the master plan. And there's a whole land use chapter on it. So, I mean, I applaud the board wanting to be proactive about it. I would think it would be worth getting into it as part of that process.
excellent. Anything else you want to add?
Nope, thank you for listening.
Any other board comment? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning? Mrs. Bertram,
Aye.
Mr. Torgensen,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
and I for myself. Good night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
We got stuff to sign, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This big roll behind you.